This is the Germans from Russia Experience, Episode 4. Where can I find information about my Germans from Russia ancestors? 9 tips to begin collecting your family history. Welcome to the Germans from Russia Experience. I am your host, Elisa Rodriguez, and I am here to inspire you to learn anything and everything about your own family heritage by providing information, experiences, and stories about a special group of people, the Germans from Russia. Hello, everyone. I'm Elisa, your host. Today, I will be giving you 9 tips on how to start collecting information and stories about your Germans from Russia roots. And I'm recording today at the Central California chapter of the American Historical Society of Germans from Russia. And I have with me Sharon, who has been the chapter secretary and is one of the researchers here that helps anyone who comes in to work on gathering their genealogy. Hi, Sharon.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Okay, number 1, my first tip is to create a family tree. You can do this online on a website such as Family Search, MyHeritage, or Ancestry. You can create an account and start a tree for free. Some records can also be accessed for free. Costs for more access vary. You will find census records of all sorts, including the United States Census records up until 1950. You can view ship records, intent to declare citizenship records, military records, to name a few. You enter yourself, your parents, your grandparents, and then hints will be given to you that will just keep coming. You can even just write it down on a sheet of paper to start your family tree. Put down the names and dates and just keep talking to family.
And I would say,
Yeah.
get started. You know, so many times we put it off. We say, I'm going to get to that someday. Um, Today's the day, maybe. Just start. And it can be very small, very simple. But the important thing is to get it down on paper.
That's right. Okay, next, consider submitting a DNA test to one of these websites that your tree is connected to. When it is processed, you will have a list of matches of people you share varying amounts of DNA with. You will no doubt find dozens of cousins. Then you can begin, if you desire, making connections with these cousins to find family stories that you may never have heard of, and also to expand your tree. Have you made connections on DNA in Ancestry?
I found cousins on there because it will give me, I have my tree on ancestry.com, and it lists first cousins, second cousins, third cousins, fourth cousins. It's amazing how many cousins we all have.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't really connected with any in person.
Oh, okay. All right. I've met some cousins on through DNA. One of them I met in person. I told that story in my introductory. But the other ones I've just made friendships with online and learned things about my family that way too. So very cool. Okay, next. There are online databases for Germans from Russia records. Yes, there are many, many websites. There are Facebook groups and Facebook pages, and these will all be included in my show notes. So quite a long list of things you can access online. Yeah. Number 4. Now, this is very important, as you will not find this information on the internet. Talk to your oldest relatives. They have stories, or even just parts of stories, that have significant power to help you understand things about your ancestors' lives. Also, if you can get them to, have them take a DNA test. I had both of my parents do DNA tests in their 80s, finally, just in the last few years. And so now I'm able to make more connections and understand my heritage more by having that.
Yeah, some of my greatest memories were interviewing my mother's father, who was born in Russia,
Oh, neat.
and he talked about the early years when they moved here to Fresno. And then my father's brother, Bill, told about the family coming over. And if he wouldn't have told me that story, I wouldn't have known it. So these are precious things. If you can interview somebody, really try to do it.
And did you write them down? You probably wrote them down. So you have
Of course.
those. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Number 5 goes along with what Sharon was just saying. Write down or audio record your stories. Ask them for any old documents or old photos. If they will not hand them over, ask to scan them using a doc scan app on a smartphone, or just take a photo of it on your smartphone. You can also use Google Translate as a tool to hover over text that's in another language, and it will translate on the spot. You can take screenshots to capture those translations or write them down. I've done all these things. I have audio recordings of my father telling stories of his childhood, and those are very, very precious at this moment because he just died a week ago. So I'm so glad that I was able to do that. Old photos, tons. I know you have. That's one of your favorite things, Sharon.
I love old photos. I really do. They're going to be a feature of my binder that I'm putting together for the family. And try to identify as many people as you can. Ask family members, who are these people in this picture, if you can. That's very important.
Yeah. The Google Translate, this is something that I learned, I don't know, a couple years ago. You know what I'm talking about, right? We take the smartphone and you go to the app. You can
But it has to be a typed copy.
It can be handwritten too.
Can it?
It can't always read everything, but it can read handwritten text as well, even cursive. AI is amazing.
Yes.
So yeah, you can hover over it. It translates on the spot. I've amazed so many people who have come into the building. We see the baptismal certificates or other items, and you just open your phone and it translates it on the spot. And it's just really a great tool.
That's great.
So, yeah, that's great. All right, number 6, start a collection. Keep a journal or a logbook. You can do that on your computer or the old school way, like I still do, collecting, using a file box and just starting to toss things in there. Of course, when you get a huge amount, then you have to start organizing them.
Yeah, I have my folders for different branches of families, but eventually getting them into binders. That's my goal.
Yeah, I'm working on that too. Some of my favorite collected items, though, aren't necessarily paper. I have eyeglasses from my grandmother and, of course, jewelry. And I even have my grandmother's last wallet that she had before she passed away. And she passed away way back in 1992. So, yes, I love these old things.
I guess you could put them in even a shadow box if you wanted to.
Sure.
These are items from this branch of the family or this grandmother.
Yeah, for sure. All kinds of things we can do. Next, go to a family reunion. And if your family doesn't have a reunion, plan a reunion. This is something that can start small with your family members that live nearby, even just your immediate family. If you call it a family reunion, that will, bring the stories and things like that. Interested people will attend, and they know what they're there for. They're there to share stories, and so you can start documenting things that way. Have you ever had a family reunion for this kind of purpose?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've planned different ones. Nothing lately, but we have had family reunions. I would really recommend, if you wanted to do this, to have your family meet you here at our library museum, and we could give a presentation for them, and then they can explore, they can talk about memories, they can collect things. So it would really be, we'd love to do that and help you in any way. So let us know if we can help you.
I did that. What has it been? More than 3 years ago now, I think. 3.5 years ago. It was in the spring. I had a family reunion here at the Historical Society. I had, about 12 people? You were here that day. Had about 12 people come.
It was great.
And one of my cousins, my third cousin, she is one that I met through DNA on Ancestry. I had never met her before. I didn't have her name in my tree. And she was my third cousin. My grandfather and her grandmother were siblings. So that makes us third cousins, right?
That's
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. I know that's the relationship. And she came from Oregon. She came all the way
That's
down here to
great.
Fresno. And it was really great meeting her. I've kept in touch with her, shared stories with her. And for that day, I created a presentation of that family, and everybody they just thought it was the coolest thing. And we can do that for you too. If you live nearby, just give us your family name and we will do some research for you. And then you can come in and share it with your family. It's a great way to get your family interested in
Yes.
the
Yes.
research.
I would recommend that.
All right, next, number 8. Begin searching newspapers for stories. You will be amazed at what you can find in newspapers. Something like your grandmother was in the PTA of your dad's elementary school, or your great grandmother was visited by her son and his family that lived in another state over the Christmas holiday. Long ago, there were social sections in the newspapers, not unlike social media sites we use today, to share information about what we and our family members are doing. There are several places that you can see some collections of newspapers for free, such as the Library of Congress collections, or you can subscribe to newspapers.com, which, if you decide to use Ancestry, it connects right to it. So this makes it easy to add those articles to your collection. I found some interesting things in newspapers recently. A few months back, I was looking and I found my dad, when he was just a teenager, that he had something stolen off his car.
Oh,
It gave the address of his home, it gave his name, and he was still just a teenager. And it said that somebody stole his, I don't know what it was. I think his tires off his car or something. And I sent it to him and he said, "Where did you find that?" And I said, "In the newspaper." And he said, "Wow, that's amazing. I was so sad that day." He said he was so brokenhearted that that happened. And I'm sure it brought back a wave of memories for him. And then he posted it on his own Facebook.
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And I found the write up because they used to have all the engagements and weddings in the newspaper. So in an old issue of Fresno Bee, there was a picture of my mother and her bridesmaids, and it told about the wedding, what her dress was like, who attended. It's fantastic if you can find those old newspaper
Yeah.
articles.
And you never know what you're going to find. My example about grandmother being in the PTA, I found that about my own grandmother. Said she was in the PTA for my dad's school. Yeah, the photos are interesting too. Another thing I found in the newspaper, one of my grandmother's sisters was married a few times. And I wasn't necessarily interested in all her marriages, but I had a photograph that was cut in half and it had this man's face, and no one in my family knew who he was. He was in a military uniform and it was cut off. And I'm like, well, who is this man? And I had it in my unknown photo pile. And I was searching newspapers and I found this aunt's name, and that photo popped up and it was my aunt right next to him. So
Someone
she had cut
torn it-
herself off. Well, she probably kept her own self,
Yes.
but she gave him away.
Oh,
And it ended up in my grandma's stuff and then in my, yeah. So I found out who the unidentified man was because that exact photo was in the newspaper.
and be prepared. Sometimes you'll find that so and so was arrested for being rowdy at a bar. There can be quite a few other stories too that
Yes,
you might find
yes,
in the newspaper.
yes,
So
yes.
be prepared.
Yeah, there's murder and mayhem in there for sure. Anyway, so we're on to number 9. This is last but certainly not least. Get in touch with the American Historical Society of Germans from Russia. The national chapter is located in Lincoln, Nebraska. However, they have many research documents that you can access online if you become a member. Also, they allow interlibrary loans to other libraries. So if they do have something like a book that is loanable, your local library can help you get your hands on it. Or here in Fresno, at this library, we can also borrow those things for you. Another great place to start your research, which is where we are sitting right now, in Fresno at the Central California chapter of the American Historical Society of Germans from Russia, we have a research library here. and we have lots of documents that can't really be found anywhere else. And so it's a fantastic place to visit. Um, when people come in, Sharon, where do you start when they come in and they say, "Oh, I want to learn about my grandparents," and they give you a name? What do you do?
I usually start with, well, it has to be somebody that lived in Fresno for a while.
Sure, yeah.
So if they were married in Fresno, we have marriage records. And we also have church records of marriages, births, deaths, confirmations. We also have some books on deaths from funeral homes like Stevens and Bean or Lyle Funeral Home. We have some of those records. Some were destroyed in a fire, but we have some of them. And that gives a lot of information. It tells all the family members, plus it will list the pallbearers sometimes. So that's informative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once we find out what village they're from, then we can check the village census records. But you do have to do some local research first. So
Yeah.
I would recommend the marriage licenses or the births or deaths for Fresno County. And
Yeah.
we have those.
Yeah, we do. Most of our things that we have here are people who came through Fresno at some way or another. We do have other things as well, like our obituaries, right? That's a pretty extensive
Yes, those are
collection.
from other states.
Yeah, any all over whatever we could find all over the country. But what was I going to say? Oh, one of the places that we can start too are those. Is it called letters of intent? Declarations of intent.
When they wanted to become naturalized
Yes,
citizens.
there's some amazing information on there.
And sometimes a picture.
Yes, a photograph. I think a friend of mine came in here, a teacher that I work with, and he had never seen a picture of his great grandfather, and it was on there, and he got to see his face. He had never seen a picture of him before.
Yeah.
So that's always great when we can show somebody something that they didn't even know existed. And on those records, a lot of times it tells the ship that they came on, the village that they came from. It lists
When
all
they
of,
came over.
right? When they came, their children, all their children's names, their wives' names, does it have their parents' names? No, not parents.
Not parents.
But it gives so much information that then you can continue researching from. Yeah, especially if you don't know anything when you come in here.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, there was a time just a few years ago when I thought I knew everything there was to know, just because I thought the stuff wasn't out there. Not because I thought I knew everything, just because I thought, well, where would it doesn't exist. Where is this? But I keep finding things. I keep finding things, and it just gets motivated to find out more.
I feel like we have a treasure trove here at Fresno. We really do have a lot of records and information for people, so please take advantage of it.
Yeah.
We're here to help.
Our email and website will be linked in the show notes, so you can contact us through there. I think another unique thing that we have here are these family binders,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And what are they?
They are family trees that people have put together, different names, different German names like Amon, Bopp, Lyle, Rau, Schneider, on and on and on. And different people have put these together. Some of them were members of our chapter, some are friends of members of our chapters. But we have quite a few binders, so they'd be interested, I think, to check those out.
And some have photographs, right? Photocopies of photographs. They're not just family trees.
Now, they cannot be taken out of the building, but you can come here and look at them.
Right.
Or make copies of them if you want to.
Yeah. So they have the family, like she says, the trees going as back as far as they researched. They have stories, stories of coming
Pictures.
to America, or stories that were here, photographs. I've seen wedding photos in there. Just whatever the family offered us a copy of, we
Yes.
have that.
Yeah, they're valuable.
And I haven't counted them, but gosh, we
keep getting more and more.
there's probably 100 binders there, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet there's 100 because
There's
more than
huge
a dozen
binders
each.
on Steinhauer family. We
Nillmeyer
have so
family.
many. The Nillmeyers, yes.
Lots of information there,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. What are some very unique things we have? I think we talked about them. I think the church records are probably really unique, right?
Because I don't think those are online, are they?
They are handwritten. by
Yes.
the pastors of the church.
And some have been translated from German into English. Some of our early members in this chapter did that work. They read German and they translated the records for us.
Because way back in the early 1900s, or even before 1900 hit, they were all handwritten, of course,
In
and by the
German.
pastor. He would
Yes.
enter the date and the names of the people that were included in the event, if it was a birth or a funeral or a
Christening.
wedding, right? And then they would indicate the name of the child or the name of the people. So those are all those are really unique, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And where can people go beyond here? Well, we already mentioned the national chapter,
Mm-hmm.
all of the websites that I'll be linking in the show notes.
Right, like LDS website.
Oh, yeah.
Family Search, I
Family
mean.
Search. Family Search puts up anything and everything that they can get their hands on, which is brilliant because people
Yeah.
need access.
Yeah.
So we have that. And
We do have
Yeah.
binders of confirmation pictures for Fresno's Cross Church, which was one of the biggest churches in Fresno in the early days.
yes.
Late 1800s, early 1900s.
Mhm.
And we
Yeah.
have albums of photos. We don't have everybody identified, but maybe you could come in and find a family member in one of our binders that show pictures of families.
And another thing that I wasn't aware that existed before I started coming here were the census records from the villages. I just had no idea that those things even existed.
Those are valuable.
Yes.
I use those all the time.
We have translated census records that have the names of the family groups. And the way that they're set up is you can actually follow either the family forward or backward, and you can research a family name all the way to when they arrived in the villages.
Right. We have volumes that say the very first person, the original settler that came to Russia from Germany. I would say that's not your first thing you do. You can work back to that, but we do have volumes that you can look in to search that out. And then once you find family members or you know a name you're looking for, we can usually figure out which village it is, and then you can follow it. They start in 1798 and go up to 1857.
Yeah, 1857 is the last one. So it is sometimes a struggle to get from 1910 to 1857. Like
Yes.
there's a gap of knowledge there. If you don't have names to connect them, that's a little bit of a struggle sometimes. But we've worked it out a lot of times for people and for ourselves, finding the names that go in that gap so we can jump to that.
Well, because if they were here in Fresno, we can maybe find them in a marriage volume or in a death obituary or something like that. So sometimes we can find them that way and work backwards.
Well, I want to thank Sharon so much for sitting down with me today because I've learned so much from her in the last few years working here in the library, and I know I still have a lot more to learn. Get going on your family research. Start today.
Yes, we want to help you. So please contact us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Germans from Russia experience. I hope that something you heard today will inspire you to learn anything and everything you can about your own ancestors. If you like what you heard, please leave a review, like, and share this podcast. You can comment directly by emailing us at thegermansfromrussiaexp@gmail.com. Also, like our Facebook page, The Germans from Russia Experience Podcast. Please see our show notes for website suggestions to begin or continue your discovery of your Germans from Russia roots. My podcast artwork is by Matt Wall. My producer is Annie Anderson.